Sonic's Killerwinds podcast back again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Wow. It has been a trip here lately.
Yep.
I don't know how you aren't. This could be probably categorized as one of the best days of your life.
Yep.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we are going to get into it.
Yeah.
All right. So long story short, the state of Iowa has changed the rule back.
Yes.
Now you can use trail cameras on public land again.
Yeah.
Amen. Oh, so yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the short version. The state of Iowa changed their mind, and here we are, and we can put trail cams on public land.
Yeah.
So how we found out about this podcast is airing on Monday. We're videoing it on the Friday before. On Thursday, which would have been June
20th?
June 20th. Yes, you're absolutely right. The evening of June 20th, Nick was on social media, and it came up that he had saw it on a feed. And we double-checked sources this morning, and it is true. The Iowa DNR has reverted back.
Yeah.
And it is, the interesting part is how we got here. And that's, I think, the part that we're really going to dive into. One of the things that I want to say before we start is my disclaimer before we get into this. And one thing that, as we were talking about this today, and as when I heard about this, this all kind of really came back to me. A little bit of background. So I have a journalism degree, right? I went to Iowa State University a while back, a long time ago, and I got a journalism degree, a double major in bachelor's degree in journalism and environmental studies, okay? And one of the things, it was kind of a little bit of a oxymoron, hypocritical moment. It kind of felt like, now that I look back on now, but it did have an impact on me when I first got to Iowa State. And the journalism department in Iowa State is like one of the top 5 journalism programs in the United States. It's actually kind of cool, which whatever, maybe it's not anymore, but it was at the time. And they take a lot of pride in what they do, like a lot of college education departments do. You go into a class and you sit down with the first days with all these people, and they have these bigwig professors stand up and they talk about how journalism is meant to be fair and balanced.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that you're just really supposed to report the news.
Right.
Right? You're supposed to report it in an objective way. You're supposed to tell the perspective really from both sides, or both opinions, or whatever, however you want to say it, and or just really report it and then let the public decide. That's not really how it is, right? When you watch the news, you kind of know you're going to get one slant or the other on whatever station you prefer, whether that's Fox or CNN or MSNBC or whatever it is. There's a million of them out there. And the reason I say all that is because that's always had a real impact on me. And I think as we have done this podcast, we try to be, and I really try to be, as fair and balanced as I can be. I definitely have an opinion. And again, we're not the news, right? But in the same regard, we do have a forum and a platform to share this. And this, in a way, is news. You know what I mean? So I think what I'm trying to get at is that we're going to talk to you about the news of what it is. We're also going to give our opinion. I'm going to try to do the best I can to try to think about it from the other side of view too, or the other perspective, the devil's advocate of the whole thing, trying to be objective. Because, and maybe we aren't at all, and maybe somebody listens goes like, you guys ain't objective. You're just giving your opinion, man. Like, okay, fine. But I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny because my brother-in-law and I last night were shooting rifles. I got this really cool new rifle and I'm all excited about it. And we were trying to get it zeroed in. And Nick's blown up my phone. He's like, oh my gosh, big news. Like, you got to call me. Like, huge news, huge, you gotta call me. And I'm like, man, what could have happened between when I left work and 3 hours later, you know? And I call you, and sure enough, you saw it on social media that the Iowa DNR was changing the rule back.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know, the Iowa DNR reinterpreted the existing law and said that trail cams couldn't be used on public land because it was equipment that couldn't be left overnight, which de facto, they weren't illegal because you could still use them. They just had to be taken out the same day. The only thing that could be left was trail camera or was tree stands. We talked in great length that felt really, it just felt weird.
Yeah.
You know, it just felt real like, man, what the heck? Like, this is the line you guys are drawing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is where we're going to take a stand? It just felt rushed. It felt incomplete. It felt unresolved. It felt uncomfortable, you know? Well, here come to find out now, like, the Iowa DNR changed their mind.
Yeah.
And went back. And so we're going to talk about what we know. And again, trying to be as objective as we can.
Yeah.
So first off, what I'll say is obviously we're both really excited. We already spent, an hour talking about last night where we're going to put stuff and how we're going to change things.
What we have to pull down from what we already did.
Yeah. We had quite the little hillbilly table map.
Yeah.
You know, on the phone trying to figure out, we had summer trail cam spots. We had fall spots.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 7 cameras. I have 5. Some of mine do video. Some of mine don't. Some of them are instant send. Some of them aren't. We're trying to finagle. Oh, hey, we got to move the single ladder over to the corner because the corner does video, and we'll put that one back out here. And we're trying to figure all this stuff out now.
Yeah.
And again, we reached out to who we know at the Iowa DNR to just really try to see if we could get to the bottom of what the real story was.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably the part that I want to start at right now is, you know, it's interesting because I have a lot of opinions on this. And again, I'm trying to be objective, but I know how it makes me feel, and I know how it looks from my point of view, and it just looks bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean,
it just looks like it was one bad decision, and then kudos to the Iowa DNR. First off, for recognizing, I think, a mistake.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
you didn't. Maybe it's not even a mistake, but recognizing that they maybe made the wrong decision and having the willingness to change it back.
Yeah,
like that's awesome. Thumbs up to that, because I think sometimes in our world and as people, you know, like, you know, I know with my wife, I don't like being wrong.
Yeah,
you know, like I'm gonna, you know, sometimes you got to choose the, you know, hill you die on, you know what I mean? And they decided, you know what, this isn't the hill we want to die on. We're going to go back.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But man, it just feels like who is driving the ship here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to go back just a little bit too. I think the thing that kind of makes it feel bad is like what those decisions and rules that they changed influenced a lot, and I feel like a lot of people got influenced to, you know, do stuff on a whim, sell a bunch of trail cameras, buy a spotting scope, and now it's like crap. Like it's just it's tough because it's like, okay, what's going on here? And because it's getting to the point now where it's like, it's time to like start putting boots on the ground, scouting, doing stuff. Like people are like in action trying to move and do this stuff, so we're ready for the season. And like all these changes are just,
well, dude, I mean, think about you and I. I mean, I know how much extra gas money I've spent on just driving around.
Yeah.
You bought a spotting scope because it's like, well, I'm not going to be able to like really get in and go deep on these public spots like I could before.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to really be on the outside looking in. Well, if I can reach and see a bit better.
Yeah.
You know, I have a nice spotting scope that really kind of got your wheels turning. We were just using mine, but you're like, man, I like to have my own. So you go out and buy a nice Vortex spotting scope.
Yeah.
A nice new window mount, you know. You spend a good chunk of money, you know what I mean? Like, and think about the guy or girl that had a dozen cell cams and they're going, well, I only hunted public land. What am I going to do with these now?
Yeah.
Put them on Craigslist, put them on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
You already sold them potentially.
Yeah.
Think about, it's just, I mean, and I'm no different. Think about, we went out and we were pulling stands down and moving cameras. And it's like, well, I guess I'm not putting that on public. So maybe I'll go put it on this piece of private, or I'll put it over here. And then we kind of had to completely change our plan. And I'm not asking for sympathy, but it's just
what happened.
It's just, think about, that's just you and me across the state of Iowa. And we're just thinking initially residents.
Yeah.
Imagine being non-resident.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh Pete.
Yep.
You drew a tag, or you were going to draw a tag for Iowa, and then you're sitting and go, oh great, well now I can't. Or maybe you had already put cams out and you need to come back and remove them, or okay, well I had already bought them, or now I can't do that. Like, how am I going to figure out, like, ... It's just wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wrote down all these notes. It's like, how did we get here? Like, how did this happen? I mean, even, for example, when we saw it, I Googled it as of Friday when we're recording this, last night when the news somehow broke. How did we get here?
Yeah.
Like, who's breaking this news?
Yeah.
Like, who at the DNR, whether is it a CO? Is it a biologist? Is it someone higher up? Like, who is talking to people? Like, why is that happening? How, as an organization, because at a certain point, like, I look at the Iowa DNR, I would assume it's a company, right? I mean, it's not a company, but it's an organization. There's some sort of leadership.
Yeah.
Like, how is it getting to that these people are just talking to the public, and then the public is the one that's releasing it?
Yeah, exactly.
There's been no press release. Like, you would think when some rule comes down, there had to have been some sort of communication to all these people that they found out about it.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that communication done to the public?
Yeah.
It's like, and they didn't do that the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you think, a month ago when they broke this and all the pushback that they got, you would have thought that they would have like, okay, well, hey, listen, the silver lining is let's learn from our mistakes. Preventative maintenance. How do we not have this type of total debacle again?
Mm-hmm.
I guess they don't do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it's almost like they need to start beating the public kind of to the punch, because when that happens and there's not a press release, right when the change happens, it's just all hearsay and just word of mouth.
Dude,
and it's like,
you know what I wrote down on my paper? It feels like high school.
Yeah.
This feels like high school.
Yeah. Nobody knows what to believe, and if they just would have came up with a press release right away, and even if it was, I mean, granted, I mean, it's nice that we know so soon, but it would have been almost more beneficial to just wait a week and write up a nice press release, get it out to the public before anybody can, come up with rumors and all this stuff. It's just
Well, and again, and it also could go back to, and the other flip of the coin, it could be, it's like, well, maybe they put out some sort of communication to the Iowa DNR, to the staff or whoever, and they thought, well, this will just stay here.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some discussion internally to who these people are talking to. Man, I would think that they have to sign some sort of NDA.
Yeah, you'd think.
Or there's some sort of PR department, but you would think that it's like, if you send out some sort of communication privately, that then that next thing would be to have it done publicly. I mean, again, I love sports. Use the example of the Los Angeles Lakers. They just hired JJ Redick as their coach. Yeah. Well, they obviously decided that internally. Then they told their existing staff, general manager, their players, at the same time, shortly after, right after, I would assume, that press release hit that said, here's our official statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's not that then those players aren't going out and texting and there's journalists and everybody else saying, hey, what's the inside scoop? What's the inside scoop? Yeah. But they then also get on their phones and go, oh, hey, look, Los Angeles Lakers, they signed JJ Redick for a 4-year deal. Now we know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It would be nice to go, what's going on the internet, digitally in the stratosphere of the internet, and see the Iowa DNR come up, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
It just looks like, who's driving the ship here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And at the end of the day, when, again, from my perspective, it seemed, and again, from the people that we've talked to, and I think it's important to remember, and I feel like I have a better understanding and perspective on this now than I ever have before. The Iowa DNR is in the business of managing the resource.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
They're not in it for what's best for the hunter all the time. They're in what's best for the resource, right? Department of Natural Resources. It's not Department of Hunter Resources.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Department of Natural Resources just doesn't deal with just hunting. It deals with fishing. It deals with camping. It deals with recreational use and hiking and bicycling and all these unbelievably awesome animals and creatures and insects and bugs and snakes and all this stuff that lives here.
Yeah.
Like it's Department of Natural Resources. They're managing the resource, but in the same regard, they have a relationship with all the people that are using that natural resource.
Yeah.
And it just feels like they're just sitting there with their mouths zipped shut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems weird.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like you said, an official press release, I feel like would be really great just to know. And again, just how did we get here? You know, it just seems really, really bizarre.
Yep.
I think the other thing that, you know, came to mind is like, and again, some of this stuff I don't think we'll ever know or probably deserve to know, right? Some of this just will, I would assume, be kept internally.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense? Like, we don't need to know how or why. I mean, I would love to know why, but again, like, how do we get to them changing it back? Does that make sense? Honestly, it makes me a little nervous, especially, I mean, guys, listen, I'm a realist, right? I have my opinions on government. I have my opinions on legislation and on laws and on my way of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like what you hear from a lot of hunters who are generally probably more conservative than liberal, right, is that sometimes a lot of people feel, and then maybe I'm just putting my tin hat on here, that there's like this conspiracy, who's really in charge, right? You know?
Right.
You know, that sometimes you feel like is like whoever just kind of being puppeteered. Who is the guy that's got at the top of the strings?
Yeah.
And when I hear all this, like, my imagination and my conspiracy tin hat perspective just goes crazy. It's like, well, who's really in charge? Like, how did we get here? Like, how did this all of a sudden, because there's got to be a manager and then a boss and then a director of all this.
Yep.
Like, are they the really ones making decisions, or who is? Is there somebody else? If there is somebody else, wow, that's pretty disheartening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's other powers that be. Like, geez, oh, Pete. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know? And I hope that I'm completely wrong. But if there's any skew of reality in there, man, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know? From what we understand, and again, I'm going way off the deep end here to throttle it back. And again, from who we've talked to just try to really say, hey, please give us a clear understanding. From what it sounds like, the change to go back had nothing to do with the public outcry.
Yeah.
That was the thing that initially that you and I both said, we're like, man, they must have been getting pushback.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? And then it went to like, well, who are they getting pushback from? Was it from the public?
Yeah.
Was it from some other special interests? Like, where were they getting pushback? Who were they getting pushback from? Like, why? That was what we went to initially.
Yeah.
But, you know, what we were told, and to kind of set the record straight, sounded like the public outcry didn't have much to do with it or anything to do with it.
Right.
It really came down, from what we've heard, more from a legal perspective.
Yeah.
Right? About the fact that, and that's, I think, what we felt at the beginning.
Yeah.
That there was no due process.
Yeah.
That laid this out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we went to the meeting to try to become a part of that due process.
Yeah.
For example, using red lights for predator hunting. I would love that. That would be awesome for me. I don't want to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a thermal scope. I want to buy a red light for $150 and go and try to shoot coyotes, right? Or whatever, you know? So part of the due process of that is to try to go to the meeting and raise my hand and get the little piece of paper and write my concern or my opinion, my perspective down, and have that get into the chain of command in the world that is the DNR. But it just felt like this decision with the trail cams, it was just like gavel on the table, decision
Done.
made,
That's it.
done, case closed. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know? So again, from what we understand, this was more about from the legal side of things.
Right.
That if there are steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those steps weren't followed.
Yeah.
We just went from we were over here to step 10.
Yeah.
You know, and that it sounds like there needs to be some sort of due process, a public forum for there to be some lines of communication for the public and the DNR for the public to be able to raise their concerns.
Yeah.
Right. To go through the legal process for this to potentially change.
Yeah.
Which at that point, I think we would all feel better about and go, okay, the rules were followed and now here we are.
Yeah.
We might not like it, but I would feel better about it than the way I felt when this first, like all of a sudden came down. That made it feel like when that happened, I was like, geez, if that's happening, if that's how they can do things, like, geez, oh, Pete's like, they obviously, where does that stop?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and what you said is spot on. I mean, even if, they go through the correct due process and the decision happens and we still don't like it, I think the reason we would feel better about it is because then we know, okay, one, they took the right process to make the change, and two, maybe we're just in the minority of how we feel, and then if that's the case, then whatever.
Yes.
But in this case, you had no chance to, have your voice be heard, really. You had no chance to voice your feelings on any of it. It just happened.
Yes.
And so,
well, and it's weird too, because, we talked about this months ago, about like what you just said about having our voice heard. We had Jace Elliott from the Iowa DNR, a deer biologist, head deer biologist.
Yep.
Awesome guy, by the way. Love that guy. Talk about high character, high integrity.
Yep.
Talk about a guy that when you walk in, you're like, wow, you're really smart. He's a smart dude, right?
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was the idea behind what we felt like the survey, to have your voice heard.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because when that survey came out, there was a lot about trail cameras in there.
Yeah.
And then we talked about like, what are they getting at? And it felt like, it was like, man, what are they getting at? It was like, is there something going to happen? But I guess in the back of my mind, I felt like, well, at least they asked, you know? But then all of a sudden it just was like, we asked, but haha, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it just felt like, I was like, man, I feel like if we're playing a game, they cheated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't have the same amount of cards, or whatever. So it just felt weird.
Yeah.
And, and again, I really am glad that they reversed it. But again, it sounded like it was via the legal perspective, not because of our community, because of whatever anybody said.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's an interesting thing. The discussion that we had and what we've heard, you know what I mean? And is again, what I hope really that the DNR tries to resonate, you know what I'm saying? That again, it really wasn't because of the public outcry. It was really because from a legal perspective and trying to, from a due process and trying to really kind of go through the open lines of communication to make sure that everybody, and then if it does pass, let it pass the way everything else, other rules are set into place.
Yeah.
Instead of us all of a sudden just be like, well, we reinterpreted the law and it was like that way the whole time anyway. And so now it is, or whatever. You know what I mean? One thing I will say too, that I think that I would assume that the DNR is trying to do is with this cell cam stuff, is they are trying to set a tone of ethics.
Yeah.
Right? They are trying to make sure that's like, hey guys, let's make sure this is fair chase.
Yeah.
Right? There's already been rules in the reg books about two-way communication.
Yeah, exactly.
That two-way communication in the past and like now has been very hard to enforce.
Yeah.
It's almost like the law when I was a kid. I remember there was a law in Iowa where there was a law that you weren't supposed to be able to drive barefooted.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to enforce that?
Right.
I guess you're going to catch somebody getting out of the car.
Yeah.
you're driving down the highway. Nobody has X-ray vision, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But again, what we've heard is that those rules still apply.
Yep.
So when it comes to, that two-way communication with cell cams, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Which again, really hard to enforce. And I feel like there's a lot of room for interpretation with that.
Yeah.
So for example, if it means no two-way communication, which means that what we've heard is like, well, cell cams, that applied to cell cams the whole time. I know for me, I never really realized that.
Yeah.
Hopefully they clarify that in the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make that more clear. Because again, when you say it, you're like, okay, that does make sense. But I never really heard that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we all used our cell cams. We had our notifications on. I've talked about very openly that I, in the past, have set trail cameras, cell cams in spots that I couldn't see that would go off, notify me that a deer was walking out.
Yeah.
They helped. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, now, was that fair chase from what the Iowa DNR is saying? No. From what I understand now, doing that is illegal. You know what I mean? Okay. So, but again, the interpretation, for example, we're sitting at work and it's a random Wednesday or a Friday afternoon, and all of a sudden my cell cam notifies me via my phone that says, hey, I look at it. Oh my gosh, that's 33. He's on his feet. Like during the day, I got to go.
Yeah.
And I jump out of work an hour early to get out in that stand. Well, is that illegal? Because is that aiding me in hunting? I'm not hunting when I'm sitting at my desk,
Right.
but it is a two-way communication. Or is it just when I'm actually in the field?
Yeah.
So does that mean I can have my notifications on when I'm not actually in the woods? But then when I get in the woods, I need to turn my notifications off?
Yeah.
Or even further, if I'm in the woods, does that mean I can't even check my cell cams? Which that's what I would think it means.
Yeah.
I would think it means all of the above. You can't check them when you're in the woods. You can't be notified. The part that I'm really wondering about is like, well, what about when you're not in the woods? Like, can I check them then? Like,
Yeah.
But again, and let's say that they say, no, you can't check them when you're not hunting. No, you can't check them when you're in the field. And no, you can't be notified. Well, then you're basically saying you can't use cell cams.
Yeah.
But that can't be enforced.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think if it was going to be enforced, a DNR officer, a conservation officer would have to have some sort of reason or evidence to show that you were doing that, which they'd have to follow you around 24/7.
Right.
Then they'd have to get a search warrant to look at your phone because that's my property, not theirs.
Yeah.
I don't have to show my phone
Right.
involuntarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to take it from you. So it just seems like such a
a
gray
racket, man.
area, slippery slope.
It's all a racket right now.
The other thing that I felt like when I heard it initially, and then after the conversations that we've had, is that if I was a betting man, there's changes coming.
Oh,
There is going to be changes coming via the due process that are going to change so that I would think that cell cams won't be allowed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
You
I
know,
agree.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, again, from a legal perspective, it was changed back. But I think if we were doing a prop bet on, are you going to be able to use cell cams in Iowa 5 years from now? I would say no.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yep. And obviously the DNR changed it initially because they think it's better for the resource.
Right.
So if they thought it was better for the resource, that's just like, and it's so weird. So now they don't think it's better for the resource because they changed back. I don't know. I don't know. Well, and at the end of the day, like I said earlier, the DNR is in the business of managing the resource. But the reality is that there is also a relationship with all the people that are using that.
Yeah.
And there is a perspective and a opinion of how we feel about the Iowa DNR. And I think we all have heard it from when we travel for ozonics or just as hunters ourselves and talking to buddies that we know. A lot of these surrounding states complain about their DNR.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of Minnesotans complain about the Minnesota DNR. You hear a lot of Wisconsins complain about the Wisconsin DNR.
Yep.
But Iowa has done pretty well.
Oh,
it seems like, you know what I mean? Like there's
Definitely.
always little things, but you don't hear, there's not this narrative of like the Iowa DNR is, pissing the bed.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Like the sheets are wet. That's what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I just feel like it just makes you question everything.
Yeah.
This
definitely.
isn't fostering a healthy relationship with the public right now.
Yeah.
Like, because here we are, 30 minutes in of just ripping them down.
Yeah.
And I apologize, but just like for
It's so
playing
weird.
cards, a spade here.
It's so weird.
I don't know. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels so like bizarre.
Andrew, the guy that we had on our podcast,
Yeah.
he texted me this morning. He goes, "Are you just jumping around doing jumping jacks, doing your happy dance?" I said, "Honestly, I'm pretty stoked, but I'm kind of speechless."
Well, that's like last night when you told me, I said this to you and you were like, that's exactly how I feel. I feel wide-eyed and jaw drop.
Yeah. me
Like
too.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like at first I'm like, nah, that can't be real. Like, and you're like, no, dude, it's true. And like where you heard it initially, whoever it was, they were getting blown up in the comments.
Yeah.
That's not real. And the person said, I don't know if it's a guy or girl, but they said, call your CO, call your CO, call your CO.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, that goes back to part of where like when you really get down to how did we get here? Like the problem, like who is the CO that told this person?
Yeah.
Like
Somewhere along the line, someone said something that they probably shouldn't have.
yeah, like who is having that type of like at that point it sounded like it was kind of like confidential information, like privy to DNR employees or
Yeah.
DNR people that work for the DNR, not the public.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there needs to be some rules looked at, some processes looked at, and how those rules abided by.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it just kind of feels like there's not a PR department for the Iowa DNR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have they made some cuts? I don't know what's going on, or like even from a social media perspective, like the fact of the matter is like Ozonics, there's the son, the dad, and the grandpa. Those seem like the three, main groups of who we sell to: the son, the dad, and the grandpa, or the son, daughter, mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, you could say, right? And it feels like it's almost like the DNR is really focusing on the dad and the grandpa.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's number 2 pencils, but we live in a .com world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's great that they really spend a lot of time on their DNR booklet and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But ask me the last time I've ever had a booklet. Have you ever had an Iowa DNR booklet?
Not Iowa.
Exactly. What do you do?
Just look it up online.
That's right, baby. You go on the Iowa DNR app and you look it up digitally.
Yeah.
We're in a .com world. The fact that you can go on Instagram or Facebook and there's nothing on the Iowa DNR's Instagram or any of their profiles having anything about this. Like I looked today or yesterday, there was a thing about like honeybees.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, do you guys not know what's like relevant and happening?
Yeah.
Like, how did it not get communicated?
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, I'm not a public relations expert, but I feel like I know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Like I was born at night, but not last night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But again, shoving all of that off the table, I am super glad that they changed it back. And I will say too, at the end of the day, if you held a gun to my head, I will say as well, and I know I'm just totally pooing on them this whole time, and I apologize, but I will say, I commend whoever decided to say, you know what, we made a mistake.
I agree.
We made a mistake, and we're going to acknowledge that, and we're going to go back. And we know that there is some outcry coming, and there's been 38 minutes of it on our part.
Yeah.
But I appreciate
Definitely.
that they
Making it right.
That they went, you know what? From a legal perspective, we didn't do what we probably should have done.
Yep.
And we're not just gonna hold that flag planted in the ground. We're gonna go, you know what? We need to put this back over here.
Yep.
And we need to go through this. And we may end up back where there's no cell cams on public land. But when that happens, we'll know that we did it the right way.
Yep. Exactly.
And so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because, dude, what did I tell you when this first happened? I said, dude, they'll never change it back.
Yeah.
For example, in any state or Canadian province, look at British Columbia. They took away grizzly bear hunting years ago. It'll never come back.
Yeah.
You take something away, it's not very often that you get it back.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, especially when it comes to like that type of stuff. If they like, let's say there was some catastrophic, disastrous EHG, you know, CWD, like just like the apocalypse in Iowa. And let's say they took away the deer season, they would take it away to hopefully someday bring it back. But when they take away, you know, methods of this or this or this or that or this, they don't give you it back.
Yeah,
they take it away and it stays away.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't remember any other time I can think of where they go, oh, you know what, we had this way, but we're going to change it back.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
This really feels like unprecedented, but I do appreciate that they did it.
100%.
And I don't know that we'd ever really get a really clear answer from anyone.
Yeah.
But
which, like you said before, I don't think we deserve to.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we deserve. It's almost like this. If the DNR is a kitchen and they have all the ingredients and they're baking a cake, we don't deserve probably to know what's in the cake. But like, I want to be able to see the cake, or, you know what I mean? Like taste it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, you know, I agree that we don't need to know all the internal, what every little thing happened and and how there was a breakdown. But at a certain point, there needs to be some sort of explanation of how did we get here?
Yeah.
You know, what happened?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, but
yeah,
it's changing things for us really fast. Like you said, we went through it. I've got 5 cams on private, and I'm going to take one and put it on one of our public spots that I'm really excited about to see those deer again. And then our other spot, we've already decided how we're going to go through our numeric ordering. Last year we had, how many was it? 1 through what?
47.
Okay, 1 through 47. So how it was is in chronological order. When we got them on camera, that was the number they got.
Yep.
So, Nick's got a sweet spot for number 9. And is that Scrape Johnson? Is number 9 Scrape Johnson?
No, Scrape Johnson's number 43, I believe.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
No, 45.
Okay, we need to get it clear here. And you've kind of walked back on the rules because you never call him 45. You call him Scrape Johnson.
I just
and
love that name.
Nope, that's not fair. He's got to be 45. So what's going to happen? Let's say, and I've obviously got a sweet spot for 33. Yeah. Oh my goodness. 33.
I do too.
30,
but that goes without saying.
Yeah, 33. 33 went from being the deer of my dreams to being a deer that was haunting my dreams, because I was like, well, I mean, he's out there. I just want to, again, this is what it comes down to. Like, you know, am I willing to abide by whatever types of like this slippery slope of rules that are the two-way communications? Yes. Like, I'm willing to say, okay, when I go out hunting, I will make sure that my notifications are off.
Yeah.
Like, I will make sure they're off. If that's what the law says, I'll do it. And I will go hunting and I won't have my notifications on. If they say, which they can't hardly enforce, I don't think, but if they were to say two-way communication means no notifications and don't look at your phone, I would be willing to do that too.
Yeah,
when I'm hunting, that's fine. Like, that's fine with me, you know? But what I will say is what I enjoy most about trail cameras is just being able to see them. I feel like I just enjoy trail cams as like almost like nature watching.
That's,
you know what I'm saying?
110%.
Like, dude, you were freaking out, and we'll put the video right here. Just the other day, we were both like all giggly laughing like we were looking at a little baby because we have a big old Doski on camera with her little fawny right there in front of the camera, like looking right at it, like right there. And she has her spots, which fawns have 300 spots. She had 2, and I don't know if she's a she, but I'm calling her a she. She had like her spots were like real vertical, upper back, like 2 lines of spots, which was kind of cool. Like, we had a doe on camera the other day that she had, you notice she has like a big kind of scar on like the bridge of her nose. Yeah. Like kind of halfway between her eyes and her tip of her nose. It's a big white slash.
Yep.
And you looked back because you just remember, like, oh, dude, hey, I think I saw her before. Yeah. Sure enough, there it was.
November 9th.
Yep. Hey, look, there's that same doe. Hey, she made it through.
Yeah.
Like she looked big and old then. Yeah. She's even older now. Yeah, you know, that's the fun.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like, dude, going home and dude, every day Jet grabs my phone.
Yeah.
Like, and I already know what he's going to do. He wants to look at cell cams. Yeah. Like we had a nice buck on the river the other day.
Yeah.
Just just kind of marching by. And we got the HD and it's like, oh man, look, he's got good beams and he's got good brows and he's beamed out. I'm like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially for June. Like, heck yeah. So that's the fun part.
Yeah.
I'm willing to abide by whatever laws that they say now about it. You know what I mean? Just let us keep using them.
Yeah.
You know, I have a feeling that we better really savor this because I would say next year, the year after, hasta luego, baby. I think they're going to go away. Hasta luego. And it's not even see you later. It's like see ya, hasta luego, never. That was Spanish English for see you later, never.
Never again.
Never coming back. You can't use cell cams anymore. Bye. Bye.
But yeah, so essentially what we're going to do, say number 9 is the 15th
Oh,
buck.
yeah. Wow, I got way off.
Say number 9 is the 15th buck that shows up this year. We're going to call it 915.
Yep. So it's going to get complicated. And we're going to have to be very diligent about making sure.
Yeah, because
here's what I think we need to do. I think we need to put a board up here and
print out every single one.
Print out at least one good angle or maybe 2 angles of every buck. So it's like, okay, there's 1 through 45, and we just know. And then if we start getting them on camera, and especially if they're in velvet, it's like, okay.
That's what I'm excited for. We didn't even have one up during velvet season last year.
I'll tell you what else I'm also excited about. And we were talking about doing this, and then that whole plan got totally debacled, and now we're going to get to do it again. We've got Trophy Rock.
Yeah.
We've got 3 Trophy Right. We've got 3 Trophy Rock sites, 2 on one and 1 on the other.
Mm-hmm.
One we're calling East Creek, which that spot is mint.
There's so many deer in there.
Mint. Now again, it hasn't
No
yet.
headgear yet.
No headgear yet. But I'm telling you, like, we walked into this spot and like we both were like, oh, we got to put it east of the creek there. We walked in there, big bean field right there. And then you're kind of walking into these trees, and there's these lines of trees that look like they've been planted a long time ago. And you look up ahead, and there's like 4 cedars you can kind of see in the middle of it. We walked in there, and somebody within the last decade had to have put some sort of mineral in there before, because there is a mauled out spot.
Yeah.
That's like a foot down at least. That's just mauled out. And I'm like, we took the rock and we're like, boop. You know what I mean? We're like, Trophy Rock, engage, and like boom, there it's where it's going to go. But part of what we were going to do is we wanted to see the difference. The thing that for me with Trophy Rock and Mineral is just having an opportunity to be able to bring deer together.
Yeah, exactly.
And or get them to stick around where it's not just like a blurry pick
Walking
going by like it is on the river right now. Like it's like,
and the juicy knoll.
yes, and the knoll too. They just kind of walk by and you're like, you're just getting one shot, like the Bigfoot shot.
Yeah.
But so what we wanted to do was compare of what we were going to get on public without Mineral and what we were going to get on private with Mineral.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to get to do that again. So we're actually going to have one of the guys on from Trophy Rock at some point. Pretty excited about that. Probably in July.
Yes.
Yep. So that's coming down the pipe. But, but one thing we are going to do too, I think, is almost like as a third layer of that is do a kind of like a velvet scrape on one of those publics. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I know right where to put it.
Yeah, me too. That scrape has been there since I hunted that 10
Car
years
hood.
ago.
It's a car hood.
Yeah, it's more than a car hood. Jeez, that's insane. It's a car hood with, I don't even know what you want to call it, with a long jump length sand pit beside it. You know what I mean? It's just like,
I think it's sick.
it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we're going to probably put like maybe a couple little vines up, maybe some velvet scrape stuff, kind of get that going too, just to see. But yeah, it's really, at the end of the day, if you don't take anything else into account, this is really exciting.
Yep.
And you know what? And I don't want to hear you complain about anything ever again, because you have nothing to complain about. Because I will say, if you've ever seen the Snickers commercials where somebody has been hangry, that was Nick.
Now I am just a little bit angry because I did just drop a decent bit of coin on a
You did.
mint spotting scope.
Yeah, nice Vortex spotting scope.
What do you do?
Yep.
Bigger things to worry about.
I'll tell you what, though.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
I'll tell you what, though. That's the thing that you could say too is Don't be too fast to go away from that, right?
No,
just
gosh,
because
no.
just because you do have the ability to do this, to do the trail cams again.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting when you knew you couldn't do them, how much different you were scheming and how much different you were having to try to think about how you were going to scout.
Yeah.
Well, now if you still did that plus the cell cams, you would really get yourself ahead.
Amen.
And there is some truth to play devil's advocate again. So I'm double devil's advocating here.
Double devil's avocado.
I don't even know what that means. I don't know if this has ever been done before. Double devil's advocate? That's a tongue twister. Say that 10 times.
Double devil's advocate, double devil's advocate, double devil's advocate.
That was only 3. But the also thing you could say is, there could be an argument that using cell cams does make you lazier. Not just you. It just makes in general that it makes things easier. That, like when you have cell cams, you're like, well, I don't need to go do that. And even right now, you're like, well, maybe do I keep that spotting scope? Do I really need that now? Because I won't go do that as much because I've got cell cams out. There's a ton of truth in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But there's also to be said when gas is $3.46.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And last time I checked, I drive a Ford F-150 that gets like 16 miles a gallon if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So when we have gone out, I got home and I was like, and that was a half a tank of gas. I was like, awesome,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Whoa.
No, yeah. Well,
That could also make an argument for you getting more cams because the money you're saving on gas, buy another dozen.
Not a dozen, but a couple, 2, 3.
Hey, buy a half dozen. Buy
Here's
Baker's
the thing,
dozen.
though. Like last year, I was going out just as much, but velvet filming
Yes.
and not scouting as much.
Yep.
I was just going out and seeing if I could film some cool stuff, not with any relation to where we're hunting and stuff. So I'll still probably be doing that a ton, and the spotting scope will indeed come in handy for that too.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun though, really focusing on places that we are going to hunt.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit better than just driving around aimlessly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it did.
So
The one thing I was going to go back to too from earlier in the discussion is, from my perspective, from the outside looking in, it feels like what the DNR is really trying to resonate and pound home to is fair chase.
yeah,
Do you follow me? Right. And just making sure that people are aware of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Like informing people about what fair chase is. And I hope that, like we talked earlier, that they kind of clarify in the reg book about what those things are.
right, definitely.
I'll tell you what, I know that they do in the DNR book, and I guess I know it's there every year, but like they always have a thing at the beginning that's like by the director, that's like a little write up about just what they want to say to the public.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested. I've just kind of glanced at that, but I'm going to really take a look at it this year. Be really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's crazy too is usually this is about when the reg books are coming out.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like
They're scrambling.
Well, the other question to ask is like, what about if the reg books would have already come out? Think about that. What about if the reg books already came out and they already changed it and then they changed it back? Or would they have been able to change it back? And or if they weren't able to change it back, and this from like the legal side of things, if somebody would have like way smarter than you and me been like, hey, you didn't do this the right way, what kind of repercussions could there be?
Right.
Again, going into straight conspiracy like I am right now, I'm I can't help it, but I'm going down the rabbit hole. Think about this hypothetical conspiracy theory number 1 being, what about if the reg books came out? Because I think it's like usually you see new reg books like this time of year.
Yeah.
Especially because like I think non-residents already drew.
Yep.
And then, so it's like the
Benny
reg books.
Zip.
Yeah. Yeah. Benny and Zip, Benny and Zippy, and Charlie and Willie and Philly, Millie and Tilly.
Dude.
So imagine hypothetical 1 conspiracy theory. What about if the reg books came out and then they were like, oh, hey, we need to change this back. Would they have changed it back? Dun, dun, dun. Number 1. Number 2, what about if the reg books came out and then they decided to change it, but then they decided not to, but then somebody smarter than us was like, hey, you guys didn't do this the right way. And then there was legal repercussion or who knows what.
Yikes.
Dun, dun, dun. Or what
Yikes.
about if the reg books came out, they changed it back, but the reg book said something different, and they had to make an amendment, and they're obviously having some hard trouble with communication right now. So that could have been a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be good. I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yes. And you know what? I know what I'm doing too. I already had plans, but I got to switch them around. Yeah.
What are you doing?
I got to get Cam off the single ladder and and then put that one at the corner and move the corner to you know where.
Secret spot.
Yeah. We need to be way more cryptic about our spots, by the way.
I got to go.
I think we need to change the names completely.
I got to go to west of the creek, grab that joker, bring that out, put cams on the thicket.
Well, you need to trim the thicket a lot better too.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's what I should do. I should have Benny and Willie.
And Millie and Silly and Philly and Millie. What?
Don't disrespect their names.
I'm not. I'm just saying you have a lot of people in your family that got an illy, Philly, Millie, Tilly, really, Billy, Silly at the end.
So what?
How many? Just say Charlie, Billy, Willie,
No.
Benny.
No, it's just Charlie, Willie, and Benny.
Charlie, Willie, Benny, and Millie.
Millie's not one.
Oh, you don't have Millie?
No.
I thought you had a Millie. I swear you said a million there a couple times. So Charlie, Billy, Willie, Millie, Philly, Silly.
No, that's literally the only three.
I only said 3.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Hey, listen, I love all your cousins.
I know you met them all.
Seem real nice.
They are.
Listen, hey,
Great kids.
yep. Because you got Benny, Willie, Charlie. Benny, Willie, Charlie.
Zip.
Ben, Zip, Benny, Willie, Charlie.
Sure.
Well,
no.
Ben is Zip. Benny is Ben's / Zip's son. Willie is Ben/Benny's brother / Zip's Ben's.
Okay.
Willie is Ben / Zip's son, right? And then Charlie is Willie and Benny's cousin, and Ben / Zip's is his uncle. I just got all that right.
No, you didn't.
I got Charlie and Willie mixed up.
No, those three are brothers.
Oh, they're all brothers.
Nice.
Son of a gun. I thought there was an AJ. That's what it is. AJ. There's an AJ in there.
Yes.
So it's Benny, Willie, Charlie, Philly, Millie, Billy, AJ, TJ, AJ, MJ.
Dude.
Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And your uncle. What's your uncle's name?
Adam.
Adam. And Adam, Tom, Chris, Charles, Nick.
Okay, you're really diving off the deep end here.
We do have a lot to do, and we got a lot of changes to make.
A lot to do in a short time frame.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that for free.
Yep. Let me say one more thing too. Hopefully the Iowa DNR does come out with some sort of press release, but if they don't, and you are listening to this, and you do have questions, I feel like locally, for us here, we have a good relationship that we could call our conservation officers or call the Ventura office
Right.
by Clear Lake and say, hey, can you guys explain this to us?
Definitely.
And that they would try to help clarify. So if you are listening to this and you are wondering, you can find in the reg book, you can call a conservation officer or you can call the Des Moines office and you can get a hold of somebody that can give you an explanation. Because I think, some people may want to do that too.
Yeah, definitely.
But don't get too comfortable. Enjoy it while you can.
Tell you that for free.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, we are going to enjoy it. And I am so excited about.
I mean, last night was the best night of sleep I've had in weeks.
Yeah. And you know what? Today has been the best day of work because your negativity and it is a burden. It'll wear a guy down. It's like if I was a fighter jet and you are like the G-forces.
You're taking this way too far. This
Just
is
saying,
just all not
you know
true.
how powerful G-forces are?
Super powerful.
Let me just tell you a fun fact. G-forces, your head weighs like 8 pounds. G-forces, if you go to let's say 9 Gs, makes your head weigh over 100 pounds. That's what you do to me. You're like G-forces like pushing my head down.
Okay.
Hey, dude, I'm telling you, I feel like a lighter man. Look at my head. Look at this. Look at how much I'm moving look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I'm taking this fighter jet and I'm just going straight inverted. I'm in like Maverick where I go up over and then I go upside down, then I go back down the other side. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Got it.
Dude, and then you know what? I'm going to drop the bomb and then I'm going to G9 it out of there. And then I'm going to fight the guys, dogfight all the way back to the battleship. Then I'm going to land and then they're going to applaud me.
Got it.
And if you had a fighter jet nickname, mine would be Tomahawk and yours would be Hosball, Mental, Mountain Ops, Flat Tire Forgets a Lot.
All right.
Let's say, okay, I will say, rapid fire, you get to pick your nickname. If you were a fighter jet pilot, go.
My nickname?
Yeah, go.
Maverick.
You can't be Maverick. You can't be the same one that's already exists. Well, I'll give you one more chance. And if you don't pick, then I get to pick it. 1, 2, 3, go.
Maverick Johnson, dude.
You can't have it be Maverick.
Okay.
Okay, one last try. You get one chance. Actually, the third chance.
I got it.
But this is it. And if you don't pick it right, I get to pick it. And then that's part of your existing nickname. Okay. Ready? Go.
Diesel.
Diesel. Oh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, Diesel's not bad.
I like that name.
But hey, listen. You have been happier today. And I understand why you were frustrated. That first week was a dark time.
I'll admit that was bad.
That was a dark time. But I would come in your door or you would walk in my office and I was just like, uh-oh, here we go. There was a dark cloud of sadness.
Yeah,
that was following you around.
That was a real bad week, especially because that was the week. Well,
dude, now it's rainbows, Skittles, and cotton candy, which all of those things from a diabetic perspective are not a good idea. So don't be thinking about it.
Not good.
You don't got enough NC on that pump to get you through all those things.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a dark time. It started getting better though once I started doing a little scouting and stuff.
Yeah. That
helped.
Honestly, that kind of pulled me through too. Because when we got out, and again, I know I'm going way off, but I'm trying to bring it back. And this sounds really silly to say, but you know what else really helped me was when Jet was out there with us and he just gets excited and you just feel that pure, just like, oh man, look at that doe. Right. And it just kind of brings you back to like, okay, what's this all about? Right. Yeah, exactly. And again, I feel like I've got this kind of new thing that I'm going by and it's that, don't sweat the small stuff. Mm-hmm. And you realize it's all small stuff. Yep. Moral of the story, we're really excited that the Iowa DNR changed it back. Thank you. And listen, I'm giving you a round of applause. I will say that I'll tell you what, it takes, I know what we've said today. Yep. And so I think it's awesome that they recognize that, hey, we didn't maybe do this the way we should have, and that they're willing to go back. Really commend them for that.
Good job.
And if you stuck around the whole time and listened to this, that's quite the feat too.
We commend you.
we commend you. All right. Thanks for listening. Another podcast in the books. I'm who I am. He is who he is. What was my name? Tomahawk. He's Maverick.
No, I'm Diesel.
Diesel.
See you next week.
Stay classy.
Diesel out.